On February 6, 2025, Demetrius Frazier faced execution by nitrogen hypoxia in Alabama after 33 years on death row. In this video, we'll unravel his brutal crimes, his last meal, and his final words. In November 26, 1991, in Birmingham, Alabama, Pauline Brown, a 40-year-old mother of two, was asleep in her ground floor apartment. Her life was simple, filled with family dinners and dreams of meeting her new grandchild. But that night, 19-year-old Demetrius Frazier, a troubled young man from Detroit, was prowling the streets. Born on October 29, 1972, Demetrius grew up in a world of neglect, raised by his mother, Carol, without a father's guidance. By his teens, he was sneaking out to commit petty crimes, his life spiraling into chaos. That night in Birmingham, he spotted a light in Pauline's apartment and saw an opportunity. Armed with a .22 caliber pistol, he pried off a window screen and slipped inside, his heart racing with the thrill of theft. He rummaged through the apartment, pocketing $5 or $10 from bedroom. Then he heard a faint noise, a television humming in another room. Curiosity pulled him toward it, and there he found Pauline, fast asleep. He woke her, his gun gleaming in the dim light, demanding more money. Terrified, Pauline handed over $80 from her purse, begging for her life. But Demetrius, cold and unyielding, forced her into a nightmare no one could imagine. He raped her at gunpoint as she pleaded, her voice trembling with fear. When her cries didn't stop, he pressed the pistol to the back of her head and fired a single shot. The sound echoed, but the night stayed still. Fearing someone might have heard, Demetrius stepped outside to check, standing across the street, scanning for any sign of alarm. Satisfied, he returned, confirmed Pauline was dead before fleeing with the cash. Pauline's body lay undiscovered until the next morning when her boyfriend, shaken, found her lifeless in her apartment. Her family, her daughters, her brother Curtis Starks, and her mother Augusta were devastated, their close-knit world torn apart. The Birmingham police launched an investigation, but with no witnesses and little evidence, the case grew cold. Pauline's murder haunted her community, her absence felt in every family gathering. Meanwhile, Demetrius fled to Detroit, his hometown, where his dark impulses only grew. On July 9, 1992, just months after Pauline's murder, he struck again. Crystal Kendrick, a 14-year-old runaway with dreams of a better life, crossed his path. Demetrius tried to rape her, but when she fought back and tried to escape, he shot her dead, leaving her body in a Detroit alley. Crystal's death sent shockwaves through her community, her youth and vulnerability making the crime even more horrific. The Detroit police, led by Detective Monica Childs, arrested Demetrius in March 1992 for Crystal's murder. During interrogation, something unexpected happened. Now, hold on right there. In order to remind you, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe now to the channel for more jaw-dropping and interesting true crime stories like this one. Turn on your notifications so that you will be reminded anytime we upload a video, and also share this video with your friends if it makes you wonder. Demetrius, claiming he'd fallen for Detective Childs, confessed not only to Crystal's murder, but also to Pauline's killing in Alabama. His words were chilling, detailing how he broke into Pauline's apartment, stole her money, raped her, and shot her when she wouldn't stop begging. He described Crystal's death with the same cold detachment, admitting he killed her when she resisted. The Detroit police contacted Birmingham authorities, and Detective Kenneth Glass flew to Michigan to question Demetrius. In a recorded confession, Demetrius laid out every detail of Pauline's murder, his voice eerily calm. The police now had their suspect, a 19-year-old whose crimes spanned 2 states, leaving 2 families broken. But how did this young man become a monster? Demetrius's childhood was a maze of poverty and neglect. Raised by his mother, Carol, In Detroit, he was briefly in social services care and described as hard-headed, sneaking out to commit crimes by his early teens. He dropped out of high school but earned a GED at a juvenile correctional facility, the W.J. Maxey Boys Training School. His early brushes with the law, burglaries, thefts, hinted at a deeper rage, one that erupted into violence in 1991. As detectives pieced together his crimes, they uncovered more victims. Demetrius was suspected of raping 8 women in Michigan, with 2 confirmed by a Wayne County jury. His pattern was clear: break-ins, sexual assaults, and escalating violence. The investigation faced challenges. Michigan had no death penalty, but Alabama did, complicating his case. Demetrius's confessions were a breakthrough, but he later claimed Childs tricked him, promising he'd stay in Michigan. His lawyers fought to suppress the confessions, arguing they were coerced, but the courts rejected their pleas. By March 1992, Demetrius Frazier was arrested in Detroit, Michigan, his freedom cut short by his own chilling confessions to the murders of Pauline Brown in Birmingham, Alabama, and Crystal Kendrick in Detroit. The families of both victims, gripped by grief, now look to the courts for justice, hoping to see the man who tore their lives apart held accountable. In Detroit, the legal process moved swiftly. Demetrius faced charges for the murder of 14-year-old Crystal Kendrick, a runaway whose dreams were snuffed out in a dark alley on July 9, 1992. The Wayne County Prosecutor's Office built a strong case, leaning heavily on his recorded confession to Detective Monica Childs. In that confession, Demetrius described how he lured Crystal, attempted to rape her, and shot her when she fought back, his voice devoid of remorse. The courtroom was tense during his 1993 trial in Michigan. Crystal's mother, Brenda, sat in the gallery, her eyes fixed on Demetrius as prosecutors played the tape of his confession. His defense team argued coercion, claiming Childs manipulated him with promises of leniency, but the jury wasn't swayed. After a short deliberation, they found him guilty of first-degree murder on June 15, 1993. The judge sentenced him to life without parole, a decision that brought Brenda some relief but couldn't erase her pain. Michigan's lack of a death penalty meant Demetrius would serve his sentence there unless Alabama's case took precedence. In Birmingham, the murder of Pauline Brown, a beloved mother and cook, demanded justice of its own. Demetrius was extradited to Alabama in late 1993 to face charges of capital murder, rape, and burglary. The Jefferson County District Attorney's Office, led by Prosecutor David Barber, prepared meticulously, using Demetrius's confession to Detective Kenneth Glass as their cornerstone. The trial began in April 1994, and the courtroom was packed with Pauline's family, her daughters Phyllis and Pamela, her brother Curtis Starks, and her mother Augusta, all seeking closure. The prosecution painted a vivid picture of that November night in 1991. Demetrius breaking into Pauline's apartment, stealing her money, raping her, and executing her with a single shot to the head before eating bananas from her kitchen. The detail about the bananas stunned the courtroom, a chilling glimpse into his callous mindset. Pauline's daughter Phyllis testified, her voice breaking as she described her mother's warmth and the void left by her death. The defense tried to suppress the confession, arguing it was obtained under questionable circumstances in Michigan, but the judge allowed it. Demetrius took the stand, a rare move, claiming he was pressured into confessing and denying parts of the crime. His demeanor, calm yet detached, unsettled the jury. On April 28, 1994, after a week-long trial, the jury convicted him of capital murder. During the sentencing phase, the prosecution emphasized his lack of remorse and the brutality of the crime, while the defense pleaded for mercy, citing his troubled childhood. The jury, unmoved, voted 10-2 for the death penalty, and the judge agreed, sentencing Demetrius to death on May 10, 1994. Pauline's family wept, their relief tempered by the long road ahead. Back in Michigan, Demetrius's life sentence for Crystal's murder ran concurrently, but Alabama's death sentence took priority. He was transferred to Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama, a grim, maximum-security prison known for housing death row inmates. There, Demetrius began his decades-long wait, filing appeals that delayed his execution. His first appeal in 1996 challenged the confession's admissibility, but the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals upheld the conviction, citing the overwhelming evidence. Over the years, he filed multiple appeals, including claims of ineffective counsel and questions about Alabama's death penalty process, but each was denied. In 2001, a federal habeas corpus petition raised issues about racial bias in jury selection, but it too failed. As the years dragged on, Pauline's and Crystal's families grew frustrated. Their wounds reopened with each appeal. Phyllis, Pauline's daughter, spoke publicly in 2005, saying, "He's still breathing while my mom's gone. Where's the justice?" In prison, Demetrius was a model inmate, avoiding trouble and even earning a reputation for helping others with legal work, but his crimes cast a long shadow. By 2010, Alabama began shifting its execution methods, moving from the electric chair to lethal injection, and later experimenting with nitrogen hypoxia. Demetrius's case drew attention as Alabama's death row faced scrutiny for its slow pace and controversial methods. In 2020, his lawyers made a final push, arguing that nitrogen hypoxia, an untested method, constituted cruel and unusual punishment, but the courts rejected this, citing legal precedents. As his execution date neared, set for February 6, 2025, the families prepared for closure. On the eve of his execution, Demetrius met with his mother, Carol, who had visited him sporadically over the years. He declined a spiritual advisor, choosing solitude instead. His last meal, reported by the Alabama Department of Corrections, was simple yet telling. Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and a slice of pecan pie, a meal that echoed the comfort foods of the South he'd terrorized. On execution day, he was led to the death chamber at Holman, where nitrogen hypoxia would end his life. The process, still new, involved a mask delivering pure nitrogen, causing death by oxygen deprivation. Witnesses, including Phyllis and Brenda, sat in silence as the procedure began at 6 p.m. and was pronounced dead at 6:36 p.m. Demetrius's final words, recorded by prison officials, were a mix of defiance and regret. First of all, I want to apologize to the friends and family of Pauline Brown. What happened to her should never have happened. He then finally said, "I love everybody on death row. Detroit strong."